Welcome back everybody. In this episode we fit a draw slide to our tunnel boot in our Jayco Journey. This is something that's been on my list ever since we got the Journey because as anyone that has one of the smaller Jayco Journeys or Starcraft knows, or any caravan with a real compact small boot hatch, it is nearly impossible to reach inside and pull things out from the middle of the tunnel boot. This On The Go RV Accessories draw slide is a fantastic quality bit of gear, and in this episode we show you how easy it is to install and how it will change your life while you're traveling on the road. So come along as we show you how. Now, ever since we got the Journey, I've had my eyes on these because the tunnel boot itself is so small and compact, it's probably one of the most frustrating things with it. It's incredibly hard, particularly if you've got broad shoulders, to reach into the middle and pull things out that are stored in the middle of the tunnel boot. I typically use a tent peg or something with a hook to pull the storage containers I've got in the middle of the van. So you tend to locate things in the middle that you're not accessing all the time. Now we're just about to embark on a 6,000 kilometre trip up to Cairns and back, and we'll have multiple stops where we're setting up and packing down. So pulling things out of the boot will become increasingly frustrating, and I think that's where this draw slide will come into play. It means we can easily pull this out. It's got really good quality smooth runners. We can store everything all nice and tidy and quickly access them as we're on the go. Now, On The Go RV Accessories seem to be a fabrication company that are located down on Phillip Island in Victoria, and they've found a niche in creating draw slides, diesel heater accessories, bracketry, and all little bits and bobs for caravans and camper trailers. The quality of the product is pretty impressive. I was blown away when I got this, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to get it, because everyone in the Jayco Journey family in particular do rave on about the quality of these products. So this is a DS320 model, which is made to fit the Coast Door Type number 1. And the designation essentially means draw slide, and 320 is the overall width of the draw unit itself. Now, a little handy tip, if you have any Jayco camper trailer or caravan, the doors themselves actually have a code under the compression lock. So in this case, this is a door that I potentially might fit to the underbed area of our Jayco Journey, but it happens to be a D6, which is the same that's used in the Jayco camper trailers for the Swans, most likely the Eagles, and a few other models as well. So if you are interested and curious about the sizes of these doors, you can look up online the overall and the clear dimensions inside the hatch themselves so that you can order a draw slide which is correct for your particular hatch. So this DS320, being for a Coast Door Type 1, is probably the narrowest draw that is produced for the smallest hatch in the Jayco range. Once you get to the larger hatches, these obviously become a little bit more usable. But there's plenty of Jayco Journeys and Starcrafts around that run this really small hatch, and I think these drawers will make it really handy to access all those bits and bobs that end up stuck in the middle of the tunnel boot themselves. Let's quickly go into the overall dimensions and then we'll get into the install. So all the draw slides are fabricated from 3mm aluminium. They've got a really nice powder coat finish and everything is all nicely smoothed off, so there aren't any burrs or little sharp areas that you can get caught on. The quality of the product I'm really impressed with, and that's one of the main reasons I went with this particular draw slide over even making one myself or finding some of the cheaper versions that are floating around on the market. The fact that it's aluminium, they've tried to keep it as light as possible. This DS320 weighs around 10 kilos, which is a little bit on the front of the boot, particularly if you're carrying a little bit of weight on the drawbar. But from a usability point of view, I'm happy to offset that off, particularly if I can rationalise the things that I'm storing on this draw slide itself. So I'm getting the maximum use out of it, not loading it up too much and keeping everything fairly light. Now the overall dimensions are 320 millimeters wide, which is what the DS320 suggests. It's got a closed length of 1050 millimeters, so just over a meter, which means you could actually install 2 of these in your tunnel boot. So you have one going out the left-hand side and another going out the right-hand side. But again, just remember, you're adding in a lot of weight doing that. That's an extra 20 kilos, which is towards the front of the van. But that might help people out, particularly if you've got a larger boot. You might have this as a barbecue slide on one side, if you've got a wider width that you can work with, and maybe even a generator slide on the other side, rather than putting an actual box further forward on the drawbar, which is transferring all that weight a lot more forward. So there's a few different options and functionalities that you can do with these drawers. The overall height from the floor up to the top of the drawer slide is 80 mil, so it's actually fairly compact. But the 80 mil is good because it actually gives you a little bit of depth here where you can tuck some things and store some longer items down the side of the drawer to again make maximum use out of that boot area. The open length of this particular drawer is 1990 millimeters. So these drawers actually extend pretty much their full length out of the van. So you can access things right in the back. It doesn't stop a third or 2/3 of the way. It pretty much fully extends for the full length of the runners on these particular units. This actually has a weight capacity of 125 kilos, which is huge. So I don't think anyone would load this up to that full weight capacity, but it just means that you do actually have a lot in reserve if you do need to put some heavy items on this. And it does actually lock in the halfway position. So you can pull it out halfway, actually use it as a layout table if you wanted to, potentially actually even cook on the end of it, which is something I'm considering doing, particularly where we're doing one-night stops. You don't want to get all your tables and everything out. You might be able to just quickly plonk a butane stove on the end of this, or a barbecue or something like that, cook away, and then pack it all away, get back on the road and off you go. So it opens up a whole heap of different avenues and options to use these for a whole heap of different purposes. Now I'll show you once we get this installed in the van, but it might be a little bit easier while sitting out here on the bench. But to open this up, it's as simple as just pulling down these locking tabs and rolling it out. And as I said just before, it does actually sort of stop and lock in at that halfway point. And then to pull it back in, you simply unlock it and slide it all back in and it locks into place. Dead easy and simple to use. This retails for just over $400, so when I ordered this, I think it was around $409 plus postage on top, and I got it within a week. So as soon as they get the order, if they've got it in stock, they'll quickly shoot it out to you and you'll get it in no time, which is really, really good. And now one thing I'm looking at doing, which is sort of a side project of this whole process, is working out and culling down a lot of the gear that I store in our tunnel boot. Now, coming over from a camper trailer and even camping and tenting before that, we carry around a lot of pegs and ropes and bits and pieces, which I don't think are really necessary. So I'm going to actually go through all that and take a little bit of weight with all the pegs that we carry around and just minimalise that down a little bit as well. Up until this point, particularly in the Journey, I bought these storage tubs from Kmart. They're a nice compact size, they've got clear tops, and then I've got a lot of tools and bits and pieces that sit inside these. And they create a little spare parts box. Another one has all our tent ropes and pegs and bits and pieces in it, and they fit really nicely in the Jayco boot. Now, the only problem I've got is that when they go into the tunnel boot of the Journey itself, they obviously sit this way, which doesn't work with this particular slide. They do go this way around like this, but then I'm actually losing a little bit of storage space by putting this slide in. That's not necessarily a bad thing because, as I said, I need to cull down on some of the stuff that we put in here. I've also got a Ryobi tool bag that I put in here. So I'm sort of looking at different options that I can buy to work with the 275 internal dimension of this drawer itself. And I've come across a few different options. The first are these Black Bear canvas bags that have a clear top on them. So they're like a lot of the clear top bags that you get from most of the manufacturers these days. I bought these from Outback Equipment because they were like half price or something like that, and I thought they might work fairly well. But when you put them on here, again, they're a little bit narrow and they're not all that efficient. They don't actually fit terribly well this way either. So I might use them somewhere else for a little bit of extra storage, like in our robe cupboards or something like that. Having a clear top means you can see what's inside them without having to open them all up. Now, one thing I did come across from the 4-wheel drive super centre were these polyester bags. Now, they're not as good quality. They are polyester, not a canvas, and they don't have clear tops on them, but these are actually made for their Thumper air compressors. They had 4 on special for $9.90 or something like that. So these cost me basically nothing, and they actually fit reasonably well into the 320 system drawer. They weigh nothing, and I can actually divide a lot of my gear up so that we can sort of split it all up and organise it a little bit better. The only compromise here is they obviously don't have the clear tops in them, so you have to zipper them open to see what's inside, but I might actually make little tags that go on there. Now, I'm actually saving a little bit of weight because, believe it or not, all these plastic tubs do weigh something. So if you can cull it down to something that only weighs literally a couple of grams as opposed to say 100 or 200 grams, all that does add up when you're loading up your caravan or camper trailer. So I'm going to try these on this particular trip. If they don't work, I'll probably swap them out and do something else. That's just a little side thing you might want to look into in rationalising all your storage. And I've also gone through the opposite side where the jack and everything is. But once we get this installed, I'll go through that and show you what I'm doing there as well. So with the kits, you obviously get the drawer slides, you get the fixing hardware. In this case, we've got 16 tech screws. And you get these really simple, easy to understand instructions with pictures, which everyone knows I like. Having the pictures as a guide does make a really big help when you're installing something and you're not 100% familiar with it. Now in our case, we're installing the simple tunnel boot slide. That is just a slide without the high sides. Now you can actually option these drawers with high sides as well, or actually buy them and add them on later on. So let's get into the installation process. Now in our case, because our tunnel boot is so tight, it's a little bit tricky to install this. On the Go RV suggests that you install this in the tunnel boot, get it all squared up and positioned where you want, then you pull this drawer out about 150mm. That gives access to the 4 rear mounting points, and you obviously screw it down into position. Then you slowly pull this drawer out and progressively put the screws in all the way down these mounting angles until you've got all 16 screws in place. Now I think I can actually squeeze my shoulders in through the tunnel boot. I've done a bit of a test and actually fit this in. My backup plan is to grab either Zach or Sam, who are 10 and 11, to actually go in and do it. But the difficulty is going to be, particularly with them, having the actual strength to screw down and not strip the head of those tech screws. So I'm going to do it first. If you see me doing it, it's obviously worked. However, if you're a little bit bigger, you might have to call in some help, and I would suggest even if you do fit in the tunnel boot, make sure you do it when someone else is at home. So if you do get stuck going back out, they can grab you by the legs and pull you back out. Now the alternate method, if you want to change it up a little bit and you are concerned about accessing particularly the rear points, is that you disassemble this and install it just with the angle brackets that run down the side. The only thing you have to be incredibly careful with here is that you actually square this up when you place it inside. And there is a chance, if it's slightly off or out, that will actually bind up these slides when you're wanting to use it. So we're going to attempt this install with it all intact, and we'll do the same. We'll just slowly pull this out, put all the mounting screws in and see how we go. So even though we're installing one of the smaller drawer slides, the process is pretty much the same. If you've got a bigger hatch, it's obviously going to make it a lot easier to put this in. So if I can do it in our Jayco Journey with a really small hatch, and you've got a larger hatch that you're looking to install this onto to even accommodate a barbecue or something like that, it's going to be dead easy, to be honest. So let's go out there, give it a whirl and see how we go. So you want to get your drawer slide in. You'll see I had to tilt it to the side so all the little nuts don't foul on the sides of the hatch itself. And then it's just a case of getting it into position so that you're happy with where it sits. And most importantly, you can slide out without fouling. And you also want to make sure it's nice and square in there. So I got the handy tape out and I measured roughly 70mm from the edge here facing the rear of the van to the rear of the tunnel boot itself, and made sure it was roughly the same all the way through. It's a little bit hard to do because the acrylic liner does actually have a little bit of a wander in it, but to me, and even going by the eye, it's roughly pretty much square and nice and true in the hatch itself. Now I did test that this would slide out and slide back in with no dramas. If you do that, just make sure that the locks are in before you go fixing it into place. Again, so it's all nice and true and in there properly so that this will all lock up when it's fully installed and you close up the drawer itself. Now we get on to the fun bit, which is me crawling in to the other side. I'll see if I can take a camera along and show you the process there. It'll be extremely tight. It's a little bit claustrophobic, but once you get it done, It's dead simple, it's ready to use, and you can go on your merry way.
Okay, I'm in the hole and I've pushed this drawer out about 150 mil as per the instructions. Now, as you can see, it's pretty tight and I do this for your entertainment. So let's get these screw fixings in and see how it goes. So that's the first 4 successfully in. Actually, it wasn't that hard. Now I'll just keep pushing you guys along and we'll finish the rest. And the last one I'm going to try to do from the outside.
And just like that, we're done. It was pretty easy. I made sure I put all the screws in this little container so I could just slide them along with me. Obviously used the impact driver, and I did take in my Ryobi lamp, which just provided a little bit more light, made it easy to see. If you're doing this yourself, make sure you've got someone to pull you back out, because it was incredibly tight to try to shuffle back. Having Michelle there to pull me back out of the hatch by the legs made it a lot easier, even though I probably should have had a camera there to make it a little bit more entertaining. There are 4 holes close together at the front of the drawer here, so I basically got to a point where I could reach in from the front here, and I put the last 4 screws in, which were right up the front of the drawer unit itself. But you can see it's incredibly stable, and I'm pretty happy with the result, to be honest. Now it simply just slides away, locks into position, and you can store your things all nice and tidy, pull them out when required, and it keeps it all nice and simple. So you'll notice I was crawling in from the driver's side of the Journey, and for most people there would normally be a jack in the way. You'll have to remove this jack so you can climb over the top of it. Now I've completely removed the jack, including the mounting plate, because I'm actually changing things up while I'm going through and rationalising the storage in our tunnel boot. The one annoyance that I, and I'm sure many others have with these tunnel boots, is that the jack is on the opposite side. So if you're trying to store all your leveling ramps, hoses and cords and stuff like that, they often get obstructed by the jack with this position right inside the door here. So I'm going to relocate this jack. Actually, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I've actually bought a second-hand KO jack off Marketplace, which gives you a little bit of extra flexibility in that it's a hydraulic jack. And I'm going to locate this either under the rear bunks or under our lounge seating. I'm not quite sure, but for me, it's something you would rarely access, hopefully. And having it under the lounge seating or something probably works a little bit better with our weight balance. And it stores it away in an area where I'm not usually trying to access it. So we can pull it out in an emergency, change the tyre, do whatever we need to do, and then get back on the way. What that does is it frees up this side to put our leveling ramps in all nicely and tidy. And then one thing I have done is, instead of having our cords all loosely inside, I have gone and got some bags. Now there's a few different options for them, and you can buy a lot of the Chemek bags and stuff like that, or Campmaster, but I came across these Navigator bags which actually fit really neatly in through the hole here. You can stack them on top of each other, and they've got vents on the outside so that if they're put away moist or wet, they can breathe and actually evaporate all that moisture back out of them. One thing I don't like about the round sort of hose bags is trying to get the hose in. These simply zip and open up, and then you can put your cords in. They've got other little storage areas inside that you can put all your tap fittings or electrical connections in, and it keeps it all nice and tidy. So I bought a starter pack which has 3 bags, one for all your cords, one for your water hoses, and a third one for your silage hose, which I've still got to put in here, and that will keep everything all nice and tidy. Again, they're not all that cheap, but the quality is really good, and for us they fitted perfectly in through this opening, as opposed to the round hose ones which you had to sort of jam in through the 320 boot hatch. So that might be something that you want to consider as you're going through this process, but I'll go and load up the drawer now with some of those bags just to see how they all fit and see how it really works. That's 3 bags sitting on this drawer, which gives you a fairly big amount of storage. They do go side by side, but I find they do foul on the hatch a little bit. So I will update everyone if they're interested, or anyone, with some other solutions as we go through this process on what might fit better on these particular drawer slides. But having them on this way, they're fairly well fitted into the actual drawer itself. You can actually fit a lot in these 3 bags and actually organise your things fairly well. You obviously also have the space down the side to put all your long jacking components, the long rod for the awning, brooms, stuff like that. I'll probably even put our anti-flat bars down the side so that even if I have to pull one of these out, I can easily access that when we get to site. I don't have to lift the bed up. So as you can see, I'm pretty impressed with this result. It just makes our storage so much easier, and then you can access everything in the middle of the boot. The quality of the on-the-go RV drawer slides I'm really impressed by. You do pay a little bit more for that, but it's not a Chinese mass-produced item. There's a little bit of care and quality taken to produce these and make sure they work with all the different Jayco door hatches, as well as all the other brands that they build these drawer runners for. If they don't have a particular drawer slide for your particular hatch that you're trying to fit it into, contact them, because they do custom-made drawer slides as well to your specific specifications. And remember, you can always go on and add other bits and pieces. These are fantastic in that they do have a 125 kilo load rating to pull it out and use it as a portable kitchen, for example, putting a barbecue on, a butane cooker or something like that. I'm actually toying with the idea of potentially making a little platform that sits on the end of this so we can set it up as a makeshift quick kitchen for those stops on the side of the road or those one-nighters where we're in transit to somewhere, and that will be another project down the track, I'm sure, as well. So anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. Put a few comments down below if you think this is a good thing or if you've got any other suggestions. Like the video, share it around, because that really helps us out on YouTube. And as I always say, thanks for watching. Get out there, stay safe, have fun, and we'll catch you next time.